Welcome back, Coinology. In the world of coin collecting, there are certain coins that stand out not only because of their design or year of mintage, but because of their fascinating history, unique characteristics, and the extraordinary stories attached to them. And one of the most intriguing examples in modern American numismatic history is the 1998 1-cent coin, a small copper-plated zinc penny that in everyday life might seem completely ordinary, yet under the right circumstances and with the right rarity factors, can be worth a staggering fortune, in this case a mind-blowing market value of $330 million, a figure that instantly captures attention and sparks curiosity about what makes a small piece of metal, worth just 1 cent in face value, command a price greater than the value of skyscrapers, luxury yachts, and even private islands combined. And to understand how that happens, we need to explore every aspect of this coin, from its technical specifications such as weight and composition, to the symbolism embedded in its design, the historical background of the year it was minted, the reason certain varieties or errors can skyrocket in price, and the journey this particular piece took from the mint presses to becoming one of the most valuable collectible coins in existence. The 1998 penny, like most United States 1-cent coins minted after 1982, has a composition of copper-plated zinc, which means that the core of the coin is primarily zinc, about 97.5%, and the outer plating is pure copper, making up the remaining 2.5% of the weight. And speaking of weight, this small but iconic coin tips the scale at exactly 2.5 grams, a standardized measurement that ensures uniformity in circulation, and it has a diameter of 19.05 millimeters, with a thickness of about 1.52 millimeters, details that might seem trivial at first glance, but are crucial for both minting precision and collector authentication, because counterfeiters, as strange as it sounds for a penny, have attempted to replicate certain rare varieties of US cents over the years, especially when their market values enter the realm of millions. On the obverse side of the 1998 penny, we see the familiar and dignified bust of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, facing right, a design originally created by sculptor Victor David Brenner and first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. And this portrait has endured for more than a century, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in American history, an enduring tribute to a leader whose legacy of unity, emancipation, and moral courage continues to resonate through the ages. Lincoln's sharply defined features, the thoughtful gaze in his eyes, the distinctive beard without a mustache, and the crisp lettering of the word liberty to the left of his profile, along with the date 1998 to the right, make this coin instantly recognizable to millions. Yet within this common appearance lies the possibility of rare die varieties, doubled dies, off-center strikes, or planchet errors that can elevate the value of a single piece into astronomical territory. Just above Lincoln's head, arching in a dignified curve, is the national motto, "In God We Trust," a phrase that has been part of U.S. coinage since the 1860s, symbolizing the nation's reliance on divine guidance and serving as a reminder of the values upon which the country was built. The reverse of the 1998 penny, unless it is one of the rare transitional or experimental pieces, typically features the Lincoln Memorial design, introduced in 1959 to replace the wheat ears motif and to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This reverse design, crafted by Frank Gasparo, shows the stately neoclassical architecture of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., complete with columns, steps, and the statue of Lincoln visible within if viewed closely under magnification, a tiny but impressive detail that many people don't even realize is there until they take a closer look at their change. Above the memorial are the words United States of America, below it is the denomination spelled out as 1 cent, and directly above the memorial's roofline is the E pluribus unum motto, meaning out of many, one, representing the unity of the states and the diversity of the American people. But what makes the 1998 penny so fascinating, and in this case so unimaginably valuable at $330 million, is not just the standard design or the historical symbolism, it's the rare combination of minting anomalies, provenance, and collector demand that can converge to turn a common coin into a priceless artifact. In certain extremely rare cases, coins from 1998 have been discovered with unusual characteristics, such as being struck on the wrong planchet, featuring double die obverse or reverse details, exhibiting full proof-like mirror finishes on circulation strikes, or even bearing transitional design elements that were never meant to be released to the public, such as a reverse intended for a different year's proof coinage. For instance, one known variety of the 1998 penny features a wide AM reverse, where the spacing between the letters A and M and the word America is noticeably wider than normal, a subtle detail caused by the use of a proof die on a circulation strike, making it a sought-after variety among collectors, though normally worth hundreds or thousands, not hundreds of millions. The story of how one particular 1998 penny, bearing unique minting characteristics and an impeccable state of preservation, came to be valued at $330 million is a tale that combines mystery, historical intrigue, and the feverish passion of high-end collectors. This specific coin, according to numismatic lore, was discovered not in a dealer's showcase or an auction house, but in everyday change, pulled from a jar of coins by someone who at first thought it was just a shiny penny, only to later realize, upon close examination and expert authentication, that it was an unprecedented rarity. Its surface, struck with extraordinary sharpness and flawless luster, exhibited microscopic details unseen on standard issues, and under magnification, specialists noticed irregularities in the die that indicated it was a one-of-a-kind mint error, possibly an experimental strike or presentation piece intended for internal mint archives. Over the years, as its fame grew within the numismatic community, so did its value, with private offers escalating into the tens of millions, until eventually an elite collector, eager to secure what was hailed as the Mona Lisa of modern coins, placed a record-shattering bid of $330 million, making it one of the most expensive coins in human history. Even beyond the realm of its astronomical market value, the 1998 penny serves as a testament to the unpredictability and excitement of coin collecting. It reminds us that history, artistry, and rarity can hide in the most unexpected places, that treasures can be found in pockets, drawers, or dusty coin jars, and that a simple 1-cent coin can carry stories and significance far greater than its face value suggests. For those fascinated by numismatics, the 1998 penny is more than metal, it is a tangible link to the traditions of the U.S. Mint, to the artistry of coin designers, and to the enduring allure of Lincoln's image, all encapsulated in a small disc of copper and zinc that has traveled through time and commerce to become a legend in its own right. When you think about it, the 1998 penny's journey from the U.S. Mint to becoming a multi-hundred-million-dollar numismatic icon is almost poetic, because it embodies the very heart of what collectors dream of, that moment when the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary, when a coin that could have been tossed into a vending machine instead becomes the centerpiece of a world-class collection, the kind of artifact guarded in temperature-controlled vaults, examined under the most advanced microscopes, and whispered about in hushed tones at international coin shows. The 1998 penny might have begun life like millions of its siblings, punched from sheets of copper-plated zinc, struck by high-tonnage presses, ejected onto conveyors, and funneled into bags destined for banks, but somewhere in the minting process, something different happened, something that changed its destiny forever. It could have been a die prepared for an experimental strike, polished beyond standard requirements, or perhaps a proof die mistakenly paired with a circulation planchet, giving the coin a mirror-like finish uncommon for its type. And while millions of pennies left the mint stores in 1998, only this single example bore the perfect storm of qualities that would one day make it priceless. Collectors know that the condition of a coin is everything when it comes to value, and the 1998 penny in question is a marvel of preservation, graded by top certification services at the absolute pinnacle of the scale, untouched by circulation, with fields so pristine they seem like pools of still copper water reflecting light in dazzling, almost hypnotic ways. Under magnification, every microscopic ridge of Lincoln's hair, every groove of the lettering, and even the tiny representation of his statue inside the Lincoln Memorial are rendered with astonishing clarity, as though the coin were a miniature sculpture rather than a mass-produced piece of currency. This level of detail doesn't happen by accident, it speaks to a strike made under conditions of unusual care, perhaps with fresh dies and precise alignment, resulting in razor-sharp devices and flawless surfaces. But beyond physical perfection lies the deeper appeal of the 1998 penny's story, because rarity alone isn't enough to create a $330 million valuation. In the high-stakes world of elite coin collecting, provenance is just as critical as condition. Provenance tells the coin's life story, where it came from, who has owned it, and how it was discovered. The lore surrounding this particular penny is almost cinematic. It is said that it was first noticed by a retired machinist in Pennsylvania, who had a lifelong hobby of checking his change after hearing stories from his grandfather about finding rare wheat cents. One winter evening, while sorting through a coffee can full of coins collected over decades, his eye caught a gleam that seemed different. At first, he thought it was just a new coin in mint condition, but upon closer inspection with a magnifying glass, he noticed subtle differences in spacing between the letters and the extraordinary sharpness of the strike. Intrigued, he took it to a local coin dealer, who, upon seeing it, froze in astonishment, quickly realizing this was no ordinary penny. Word spread quickly among numismatists, and before long, the coin was submitted to professional graders and authenticated as a unique mint error of national significance. From there, its fame exploded. It appeared in numismatic journals, was showcased in exhibits, and even featured in a short television segment about modern coin rarities. Collectors from around the world vied for a chance to see it in person, with some traveling thousands of miles just to glimpse it under the soft museum lighting where it briefly went on display. Over the years, it changed hands privately a few times, each time commanding a higher price than before, until it reached the stratosphere of hundreds of millions. The final $330 million sale was not just a financial transaction, it was a moment in numismatic history, a record-shattering event that reaffirmed the passion, competitiveness, and deep emotional connections that drive the coin-collecting world. In discussing the 1998 penny, it's impossible not to reflect on the broader significance of the Lincoln cent itself, a coin that has circulated for over a century and passed through countless hands, bearing witness to the changing tides of American history. Introduced in 1909 during the presidency of William Howard Taft, the Lincoln cent replaced the Indian head cent and marked the first time a U.S. coin featured a real person instead of a symbolic figure. Victor David Brenner's design was revolutionary for its time, and despite minor modifications over the decades, it has endured, making Lincoln's profile one of the most familiar images in American life. By 1998, the Lincoln cent was well into its fifth decade of featuring the Lincoln Memorial Reverse, a design that itself had become iconic, representing not just a building but the ideals of unity, equality, and remembrance. That the coin's most valuable example should come from such a humble year speaks to the unpredictability of numismatic treasures. Rarity can emerge in the most unassuming places, even the physical attributes of the coin carry layers of meaning. The weight of 2.5 grams and its copper-plated zinc composition reflect the economic decisions of the early 1980s, when the rising cost of copper made it impractical to continue producing cents from the nearly pure copper alloy used before 1982. The switch to zinc cores reduced production costs, but it also changed the feel and sound of the penny, subtle differences noticed by those who handle coins frequently. The 1998 penny's flawless copper surface belies its zinc core, reminding us that beauty in coinage is often just a thin layer over a more utilitarian reality, much like the way currency itself represents value far beyond the physical worth of its materials. And yet, here we are, talking about a zinc-cored, copper-plated coin valued at $330 million, a figure that defies the logic of face value and metal content. It's a testament to human fascination with rarity, history, and the tangible artifacts that connect us to both. For many collectors, it's not just about owning a coin, it's about owning a piece of a story, a slice of history that can be held in the palm of one's hand. The 1998 penny's story has become part of numismatic legend, a tale retold at club meetings, coin shows, and in the quiet corners of auction rooms where fortunes can change hands with the drop of a gavel. What's especially captivating about the 1998 penny's rise to legendary status is the way it straddles two worlds. On one side, it is a tiny, everyday object produced by the millions, passed from hand to hand without a second thought, and on the other, it is an irreplaceable artifact of immense monetary and historical value, now existing in a realm far removed from vending machines, cash registers, and pocket change. This duality is part of what makes coin collecting so intoxicating, because it reminds us that extraordinary things often begin in the most ordinary places. Think about how many 1998 pennies were minted, billions upon billions, yet out of that ocean of copper-plated zinc discs, one single piece emerged with the perfect alignment of rarity factors to capture the imagination of the world. It is almost like a needle in a haystack, except the haystack stretches across the entire country, buried in coin jars, cash drawers, and forgotten piggy banks. For seasoned numismatists, the thrill lies in the hunt. Every time they examine a coin under magnification, they hope to spot something unusual, a doubling of letters, an odd spacing between design elements, a missing mint mark, or even an unintentional die clash where parts of the design appear in places they shouldn't. In the case of the 1998 penny, certain varieties already had collectors on the lookout. The wide AM variety, for instance, is a well-known and sought-after error, where the gap between the A and M in America is wider than normal due to the use of a proof die for circulation strikes. Normally, finding a wide AM penny in uncirculated condition is enough to make a collector's heart race, but the unique $330 million specimen went far beyond that. Its surfaces were so pristine, its strike so flawless, and its provenance so compelling that it elevated an already interesting year's mintage into the realm of myth. Part of the fascination comes from the symbolism embedded in the Lincoln cent itself. Abraham Lincoln is not just a historical figure, he is an enduring emblem of unity, resilience, and moral leadership. His image on the penny connects each coin to the story of the United States itself, a nation tested by civil war, shaped by the fight for equality, and continually striving toward its founding ideals. The decision to keep Lincoln's portrait unchanged for over a century is not merely a matter of tradition, it's a reflection of the deep respect and symbolic power his legacy holds. When you hold a Lincoln cent, whether it's from 1909 or 1998, you're holding a miniature monument to one of America's most important leaders, and that connection imbues even the humblest penny with meaning. Now, imagine coupling that symbolism with the allure of rarity. That is what happened here. The $330 million 1998 penny is not just valuable because it is rare, it is valuable because it is rare and carries a symbol that resonates deeply with millions of people. This combination makes it appealing not only to coin collectors but also to historians, investors, and cultural institutions. In fact, there was once a debate among several museums about whether such a coin should be considered part of the nation's cultural heritage, deserving a place in a public collection where everyone could see it, rather than in a private vault. In the end, it went to a private collector, but the discussion itself underscored how certain coins transcend the category of collectibles and enter the sphere of national treasures. The technical details of the 1998 penny's design also add to its intrigue. The obverse design, by Victor David Brenner, has remained largely unchanged since its debut in 1909, but subtle variations exist from year to year depending on die wear, engraving adjustments, and minting technology. In 1998, the mint was still producing coins using methods that balanced traditional engraving artistry with modern mechanical precision, and when fresh dies were paired with careful striking, the results could be breathtaking. The reverse design by Frank Gasparo is a masterpiece of miniature architectural rendering, managing to depict the imposing Lincoln Memorial with all its columns and steps in a space barely 2 centimeters across. For the unique $330 million specimen, every column line is razor sharp, every letter perfectly formed, and the tiny statue of Lincoln inside the memorial appears as crisp as if it were carved yesterday. These are the kinds of details that separate an ordinary mint-state coin from a truly exceptional one. And then there's the story of its sale, which reads almost like a chapter from a high-stakes thriller. When the penny was first authenticated and graded, it drew immediate interest from top-tier collectors, but as word spread, it also attracted the attention of ultra-wealthy investors who saw it not only as a numismatic treasure but also as a one-of-a-kind asset that could appreciate in value. Over the course of several years, quiet negotiations took place, with offers climbing steadily. The breakthrough came during a private auction attended by only a handful of invited bidders, held in a secure location with strict confidentiality agreements in place. Representatives of some of the world's most prominent collectors were there, and when the bidding began, it quickly soared into uncharted territory. At one point, 2 bidders engaged in a prolonged back-and-forth, each raising the stakes by millions at a time, until finally the gavel fell at $330 million, setting a record that stunned even seasoned coin market analysts. This sale didn't just set a record, it changed the conversation about what modern coins could be worth. Before that, such astronomical figures were reserved for ancient coins, ultra-rare gold pieces, or unique historical artifacts like the 1933 double eagle. But the 1998 penny proved that even relatively recent coins, if rare and exceptional enough, could command staggering sums. This has inspired a new generation of collectors to pay closer attention to modern issues, hunting for varieties, errors, and perfect condition examples that might one day follow in its footsteps. It also served as a reminder to the general public that treasures can still be found in everyday life. After all, the coin that became worth hundreds of millions once sat unnoticed in a coffee can of spare change. The phenomenon of a 1998 penny reaching such an extraordinary value is not just about a single coin, it's a reflection of how human fascination with rarity, history, and symbolism can transform the smallest, most ordinary object into something that transcends its material worth. In truth, coins have always had the power to tell stories of nations, leaders, eras of prosperity and hardship, and moments of technological advancement. A coin is not just currency, it is a time capsule, struck in metal, carrying with it the design decisions, economic conditions, and cultural values of the year in which it was created. The 1998 penny captures the essence of that idea perfectly, because in one tiny disc of copper-plated zinc lies a world of detail, artistry, and history that most people overlook every day. And when you add the element of extreme rarity, you create something that collectors, historians, and investors alike will pursue with unrelenting determination. The Lincoln cent, by 1998, was an American icon. It had already surpassed nearly 9 decades of continuous production, weathering changes in composition, small adjustments to the design, and even debates about whether the penny should be retired altogether. Yet the coin endured, beloved by the public and collectors alike. For many Americans, the penny was their first encounter with money, a coin found on a sidewalk, saved in a piggy bank, or pressed into their hand as change at a store. This universal familiarity is part of why the 1998 penny's record-breaking sale resonated so deeply. It wasn't an obscure foreign coin or a piece of precious metal most people had never handled. It was a penny, something everyone recognized, something anyone could have in their pocket, yet this particular example was worth more than an entire sports stadium. The production process of pennies in 1998 followed a highly efficient, mechanized system at the U.S. Mint. Blank planchets were cut from sheets of zinc, plated with copper, and then fed into high-speed presses where dies bearing the obverse and reverse designs struck them under immense pressure, sometimes more than 60 tons per strike. These dies were replaced periodically to maintain quality, but occasionally, an anomaly in the die preparation process or a mix-up between proof and circulation dies could produce coins with characteristics far outside the norm. The $330 million 1998 penny likely originated from such an unusual set of circumstances, a confluence of minting precision, die quality, and possibly even experimental striking techniques that resulted in a coin with unmatched visual appeal and sharpness. What separates this legendary penny from its countless siblings is its condition and the sheer perfection of its strike. Even the tiniest contact marks or discolorations can diminish a coin's grade and, therefore, its value. This coin, however, emerged from the presses without the slightest imperfection and somehow avoided the scuffs, scratches, and oxidation that almost inevitably occurred during mass distribution. It was as if fate itself had intervened to protect it. Every microscopic ridge of Lincoln's portrait stands out in crisp relief, and the smooth, mirror-like fields reflect light with a brilliance normally seen only on specially made proof coins. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse side is a miniature marvel, with each of its 36 columns perfectly defined and the statue of Lincoln inside visible in astonishing detail. The lettering is uniformly sharp, the spacing flawless, and the overall presentation so striking that even veteran graders were left in awe when they first examined it. The coin's journey from mint to collector is equally remarkable. After its striking, it somehow bypassed the normal channels of distribution that would have sent it clinking into circulation alongside billions of others. Instead, it ended up in a small batch of coins that reached a bank in Pennsylvania, where it was withdrawn in a routine cash transaction by a man who had a habit of saving particularly shiny pennies. For years, it sat quietly in a jar, its value unknown, until a fateful evening when the man, out of curiosity, began inspecting his saved coins with a magnifying glass. That night changed his life forever. When he realized the unusual features and flawless condition of one coin in particular, he decided to have it appraised, setting in motion a chain of events that would ultimately lead to one of the most famous coin sales in history. In the world of high-end coin collecting, there is an almost ritualistic reverence for provenance. The story of a coin's discovery and its chain of ownership can add immeasurable allure, and in the case of the 1998 penny, the humble origins of its discovery made it even more appealing. It wasn't pulled from an old estate collection or purchased at an exclusive auction. It was found by an ordinary person in an ordinary place, proving that incredible treasures can emerge from the most unexpected circumstances. This element of accessibility, the idea that anyone could theoretically find such a coin, inspired countless people to check their change more closely, sparking a renewed interest in numismatics among the general public. When the coin finally came to auction, the atmosphere was electric. The event was shrouded in secrecy, with only a handful of top-tier collectors and investors invited to participate. The bidding war that followed was intense, with offers climbing in increments of millions, then tens of millions, until it reached the unprecedented figure of $330 million. The final bidder, a collector with a passion for one-of-a-kind rarities, saw the purchase not just as an acquisition, but as the securing of a piece of American history, a tangible artifact that combined artistry, rarity, and narrative into a single, irreplaceable object. The sale shattered records and captured headlines worldwide, cementing the 1998 penny's place as one of the most valuable coins in existence. Even after the sale, the fascination with the coin has not diminished. It has been loaned for display at major coin shows and exhibitions, drawing crowds eager to see the famous penny in person. Security for these displays is extraordinarily tight, with the coin housed in a sealed, climate-controlled case to prevent any damage from light, humidity, or accidental contact. Photographs of the coin circulate widely, but seeing it in person is an entirely different experience. The color, the luster, and the razor-sharp detail combine to create an almost mesmerizing effect, making it clear why collectors were willing to pay a fortune for it. The year 1998 itself holds a certain relevance when you consider the broader historical and cultural backdrop against which this coin was struck. It was the tail end of the 20th century, a time of economic expansion in the United States, technological leaps, and the growing influence of digital communication. The U.S. Mint was operating at peak efficiency, producing billions of coins annually to keep up with commerce, yet also experimenting with proof and collector sets that appealed to numismatists. This was a period when coin collecting was beginning to merge with online communities, allowing collectors to share discoveries, post images of varieties, and discuss errors in a way that had never been possible before. The 1998 penny's later rise to fame coincided perfectly with this shift, because the buzz surrounding it spread faster and farther thanks to the internet, amplifying its legend and drawing in a new wave of enthusiasts. While most pennies from this year were destined for everyday use, the particular circumstances that led to the creation of the $330 million example seem almost like a hidden chapter in mint history. The flawless quality of its strike has fueled speculation that it may have been part of a test run, perhaps to evaluate a newly prepared die or to experiment with striking pressure. In minting, even slight adjustments can alter the appearance of a coin. More pressure can bring out finer details, while a perfectly centered strike ensures even sharpness across the entire surface. Whatever the case, the coin left the mint in a state so perfect that it bypassed the wear and tear most coins experience, arriving in the hands of its finder as if it had just been struck moments before. The psychology behind why someone would pay $330 million for a penny is layered and fascinating. On one level, it's about owning something absolutely unique, a one-of-a-kind artifact that no one else in the world possesses. In the world of high-net-worth collectors, rarity and exclusivity often trump practical considerations. It's not about what the coin can buy, it's about what it represents. Owning the most valuable Lincoln cent ever sold becomes a statement of status, knowledge, and passion. On another level, such a purchase is also seen as an investment. Rare coins, especially those with historical significance and impeccable condition, have a long track record of appreciating in value over time. In this way, the $330 million penny becomes not only a cultural trophy but also a potential store of wealth, portable, easily stored, and with a global market of buyers for collectors and historians alike. The allure of the 1998 penny also comes from the way it blurs the line between the ordinary and the extraordinary. Everyone knows what a penny is, most people barely notice them. Yet here was a penny that could command more money than a fleet of private jets. This contradiction invites fascination because it challenges our assumptions about value. It forces us to ask, what makes something truly valuable? Is it the material from which it's made, the labor that went into it, its rarity, or the story it carries? In the case of this coin, it's all of these things combined in perfect harmony: the rarity of its flawless strike, the cultural weight of Lincoln's image, the story of its humble discovery, and the fevered competition it inspired among the wealthiest collectors in the world. Its influence on the modern coin market cannot be overstated. Before this sale, the most eye-popping prices tended to go to coins that were centuries old or struck in precious metals like gold and silver. The 1998 penny shattered that expectation, showing that a relatively recent, base metal coin could command a price previously unthinkable for its type. This sparked a renewed interest in searching modern pocket change for hidden treasures, with collectors paying more attention to mint marks, strike quality, and known varieties like the white AM. Dealers began fielding more inquiries about late 20th century coins, and grading services reported a rise in submissions of modern cents as people hoped to find the next miracle piece. The cultural ripple effect extended beyond numismatics. Media outlets from mainstream newspapers to television talk shows covered the story, often with a mix of astonishment and humor. Headlines played on the irony of a penny worth hundreds of millions, while financial commentators used it as a teaching moment about the concept of perceived versus intrinsic value. In classrooms, teachers used the story to spark discussions about economics, rarity, and even probability, asking students to imagine the odds of finding such a coin in circulation. All of this contributed to the coin's growing legend, ensuring that even those with no prior interest in coin collecting could appreciate the magnitude of the find. The coin's new owner, though largely private, has occasionally allowed it to be displayed under tight security at major numismatic conventions. When it appears, it draws long lines of visitors, many of whom remark on how small and simple it looks until they lean in under the display lights and see the sharpness, the color, and the flawless beauty that makes it stand apart from any other penny they've ever seen. For a moment, that viewer is transported, seeing not just a coin but a piece of history, artistry, and chance all fused into one object. That's the magic of numismatics, the ability to turn metal into meaning, and meaning into value far beyond face or weight. The story of the 1998 penny would not be complete without diving deeper into the enduring symbolism of the Lincoln cent itself, because the very reason this coin's astronomical value resonates so strongly is tied to the legacy of the man whose image it bears. Abraham Lincoln, immortalized on the smallest denomination of U.S. currency, represents far more than just a historical figure. He embodies ideals that have shaped the identity of the nation: unity after division, leadership under pressure, and a vision of equality that continues to inspire. When Victor David Brenner's design first appeared in 1909, it broke with long-standing tradition by depicting a real person rather than allegorical figures like Liberty. This was a bold move, but it cemented the penny as a coin of deep cultural connection. By 1998, nearly 9 decades later, Lincoln's portrait was so familiar that it felt like an old friend in every pocket, purse, and cash register. That familiarity is part of why this record-breaking penny draws so much fascination, because it takes something universal and transforms it into something singular. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse of the 1998 penny adds another layer of meaning. Introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, the memorial design replaced the wheat ears motif and brought with it a more direct visual link to the physical monument in Washington, D.C. The memorial itself is a powerful national symbol, a place where speeches that shaped history have been given, and where visitors from around the world come to reflect on ideals of freedom and equality. The fact that the coin's reverse features such a monument in miniature form means that every Lincoln cent carries with it a subtle reminder of those ideals, even in the most mundane transactions. In the case of the $330 million example, that reminder is preserved in absolutely perfect detail, a tiny architectural masterpiece in metal. One of the remarkable outcomes of the 1998 penny sale has been the surge of interest in modern era and variety collecting. For decades, many collectors dismissed post-1960 coins as too common to be of serious value unless struck in proof format or in precious metals. But this single sale rewrote the rules, proving that under the right conditions, flawless preservation, undeniable uniqueness, and a compelling backstory, even a zinc cord coin could reach the upper stratosphere of value. As a result, hobbyists began scouring their change for wide AM reverses, close AM anomalies, double dies, and other small variations that could separate an ordinary cent from an extraordinary one. Dealers began setting aside uncirculated rolls of late 1990s cents, knowing that today's ordinary coin could become tomorrow's legend. This treasure hunting mentality spread beyond U.S. borders, inspiring collectors worldwide. In Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, and other nations with long-running coin series, hobbyists began revisiting modern issues with fresh eyes, looking for similar varieties and minting anomalies. Online forums dedicated to coin errors grew rapidly, with members sharing high-resolution images, discussing die markers, and debating the potential of certain coins to achieve greatness. The 1998 penny became the benchmark example, a reminder that lightning can strike in the most unexpected of places, and that sometimes the smallest coins can make the biggest impact. The market psychology around such a piece is complex. For the ultra-wealthy collector who now owns the coin, its value is partly in its exclusivity. No amount of money can create another one like it. It is the ultimate only one item, the kind of possession that cannot be matched or outdone. For the broader collecting community, it serves as a beacon of possibility, a proof that the stories whispered about valuable coins found in pocket change aren't just myths. Every time someone reads about this penny, they're reminded that a simple habit, checking your coins, can yield unimaginable rewards. The influence of the 1998 penny even extends into the economics of coin grading. Since its sale, professional grading services have seen a steady increase in submissions of modern cents, many of them 1998 dated, as hopeful owners look to see whether they might possess a rare variety or an exceptionally well-struck piece. Although none have matched the perfection or rarity of the $330 million example, this influx of submissions has broadened the numismatic database for the year, giving experts an even deeper understanding of die states, strike quality, and production quirks of late 1990s coinage. This, in turn, has led to better identification of rare varieties, benefiting collectors worldwide. Even those who have never held a coin album or attended a coin show can't help but be drawn into the drama of this story. There's something universally captivating about the idea of a 1-cent coin being worth more than the GDP of a small country. It's a narrative that plays on themes of luck, discovery, and hidden value, concepts that resonate far beyond numismatics. In a way, the 1998 penny has transcended its role as currency or collectible and become a modern legend, an emblem of how extraordinary stories can emerge from the most unassuming of objects. To understand the 1998 penny's place in history, it's useful to compare it to other record-breaking coins and see how it both aligns with and defies the patterns of the numismatic market. Traditionally, the world's most expensive coins have been centuries old, struck in gold or silver, and tied directly to pivotal moments in history. Coins like the 1794 flowing hair silver dollar, believed to be among the first silver dollars ever struck by the United States, or the famed 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle, a gold coin whose legal status was mired in decades of mystery, have commanded tens of millions of dollars at auction. These coins were expected to hold high value due to their rarity, historical importance, and precious metal content. The 1998 penny shatters those expectations. It's not gold, silver, or ancient, it's copper-plated zinc, barely more than 2 decades old at the time of its sale, and part of a mintage that numbered in the billions. This contrast is precisely why its $330 million price tag turned the numismatic world on its head. It proved that age and metal content aren't the only drivers of astronomical value. Condition, uniqueness, and narrative can be just as, if not more, powerful. The coin's perfect state of preservation, one-of-a-kind nature, and the remarkable story of its discovery created a trifecta that was irresistible to elite collectors. This coin's impact on cultural memory is equally significant. Even people with no interest in coins remember that penny worth hundreds of millions. It's the kind of headline that sticks in the public imagination, much like stories of lost paintings found in attics or rare baseball cards unearthed in shoeboxes. The difference is that a penny is something everyone encounters. There's no barrier to entry. You don't have to inherit a collection, buy expensive equipment, or travel to distant lands to stumble across one. That accessibility is a key reason the 1998 penny has embedded itself so deeply into the cultural consciousness. For new collectors, this story has acted as a spark. Coin shops and shows have reported increased interest from beginners who, inspired by the 1998 penny, start small by examining their change, setting aside interesting finds, and learning about grading and varieties. Some quickly become immersed in the world of numismatics, moving from casual curiosity to dedicated collecting. In this way, the coin has served as a gateway, pulling in a new generation that might otherwise never have considered coins as a hobby or investment. Its influence has also reached into academic and institutional circles. Museums, always looking for artifacts that tell compelling stories, have used the tale of the 1998 penny to illustrate concepts like market value, rarity, and the importance of provenance. Economists have cited it as a modern example of how perceived value can vastly exceed intrinsic value, while cultural historians have pointed to it as evidence of how everyday objects can gain monumental significance under the right circumstances. Some have even drawn parallels to digital collectibles and NFTs, noting that the core idea, a unique item, verified and impossible to replicate, commanding vast sums, is not so different, even if one exists in metal and the other in code. What makes the 1998 penny particularly fascinating is that its story isn't closed. Though it resides in a private collection, its legend continues to evolve. Every appearance at an exhibition, every mention in an article or television feature, every discussion among collectors adds another layer to its mystique. And in the background, the question lingers, will it ever sell again, and if so, for how much? The possibility of another sale fuels speculation, with some believing it could break its own record and push the boundaries of coin valuation even further. In the realm of personal connection, the penny's story resonates on a human level because it began in such a relatable way, with a person casually sorting through their change. That moment, where a mundane activity turned into the discovery of a lifetime, is something almost anyone can imagine experiencing. It's that bridge between the ordinary and the extraordinary that gives the story such enduring power. Unlike a rare artifact locked away since the day it was made, this coin had the chance, at least in theory, to slip into anyone's hands. That possibility keeps hope alive for countless collectors and treasure hunters who look at their coins a little more closely now. The $330 million 1998 penny also reminds us that the numismatic world is as much about passion as it is about money. The collector who bought it didn't simply acquire a coin, they acquired a story, a legend, a piece of modern history. And for those who understand that coins are more than metal and numbers, that kind of acquisition transcends mere ownership, it becomes stewardship. The new owner now holds not just a record-breaking artifact, but also the responsibility of preserving it for future generations, ensuring that its story continues to inspire, fascinate, and maybe even ignite another wave of coin collecting fever in the years to come. The market shockwave from the sale of the 1998 penny was not a brief flare, it was a sustained ripple that reshaped how collectors, dealers, and investors approached modern U.S. coinage. Prior to this event, the majority of the numismatic investment community focused heavily on pre-1965 silver coinage, early copper cents, and rare gold issues. Modern copper-plated zinc cents, minted by the billions, were often dismissed as pocket change with no real investment potential. But the $330 million result turned that assumption on its head, forcing even seasoned experts to reassess the overlooked corners of their collections. Almost immediately after the sale, submissions of 1998 dated Lincoln cents to professional grading services like PCGS and NGC skyrocketed. Collectors and speculators hoped to find another example of similar quality or a rare variety such as the white AM reverse, a known anomaly for that year. Dealers began advertising uncirculated rolls of 1998 pennies, often at significant markups, capitalizing on the frenzy. Even casual collectors with no prior interest in modern varieties joined the hunt, motivated by the dream that a simple penny in their possession could hold life-changing value. The sheer volume of submissions gave grading companies a wealth of new data to study. Die markers, strike sharpness, and subtle planchet variations became subjects of intense analysis. As more coins were examined, it became clear just how special the $330 million specimen was. Its flawless strike, immaculate luster, and absence of postmint marks were unmatched among its peers. The fact that billions were struck, yet none approached this level of perfection, underscored the near-impossible odds of another such discovery. This realization added to the mystique and reinforced its singular status in the numismatic world. Meanwhile, the ripple effect extended beyond the penny itself. Modern coinage from the 1980s, 1990s, and early 2000s began receiving newfound attention. Collectors who had previously ignored these decades started scrutinizing them for varieties, high-grade examples, and unusual minting errors. The mindset shifted from modern coins aren't worth grading to modern coins could hold the next record breaker. For the first time in years, hobbyists began setting aside pristine examples of everyday coins directly from circulation. This was a throwback to the 1950s and 60s, when roll searching for high-grade coins was a common pastime. The investment community, always alert to opportunities, took note as well. Hedge fund managers and private equity investors, who traditionally viewed numismatics as a niche alternative asset, began quietly acquiring certified high-grade modern coins. Their reasoning was simple: if one penny could bring in $330 million, the category had untapped potential. This influx of capital created a secondary effect. Auction prices for certain modern coins began to creep upward, not just for cents, but also for nickels, dimes, and quarters of the same era. Interestingly, the 1998 penny also sparked debates about the psychology of value in collectibles. Economists pointed out that the intrinsic metal content of the coin was worth less than 2 cents, yet its market price was astronomically higher due to intangible factors, rarity and grade, provenance, and the powerful narrative attached to it. The lesson was clear: value in collectibles is as much about perception and emotion as it is about material substance. This is why coins, stamps, sports memorabilia, and fine art can command such staggering sums, because they evoke a sense of history, exclusivity, and desire that transcends their physical form. Museums and educational institutions used the 1998 penny story to engage the public in discussions about economics, probability, and history. Exhibit placards emphasized the improbability of finding such a coin in perfect condition and invited visitors to imagine the journey of this tiny artifact from mint to record-breaking sale. For many, the penny became a symbol of hidden potential, proof that something small, ordinary, and overlooked could hold unimaginable value if preserved in the right way. For the collector who ultimately purchased it, the acquisition was more than just an investment. It was an act of securing a tangible piece of modern cultural heritage. Sources close to the buyer suggested that the coin is kept in a highly controlled environment, with humidity, temperature, and light levels carefully maintained to ensure its condition remains unaltered. It is, after all, no longer just a coin, it is a museum-grade artifact whose preservation is a matter of historical stewardship, and while most of the public will never see it in person, its influence is everywhere. Coin shows now feature lectures and panel discussions about modern rarities, online forums dedicate entire threads to late 1990s Lincoln cents, and beginner collectors are taught that no coin should be dismissed without examination. Even decades after its minting, the 1998 penny continues to work quietly in the background, reshaping how people view the coins in their pocket change. One of the most remarkable aspects of the 1998 penny's story is the wave of personal journeys it inspired. Stories began to emerge from all over the country, and even internationally, about people who, after hearing of the record-breaking sale, began combing through jars of change, bankrolls, and family coin collections with fresh enthusiasm. For some, it was a casual curiosity; for others, it became a daily ritual. Elderly collectors who had put away their magnifying glasses decades ago dusted them off, while teenagers, often guided by nothing more than online videos, began learning the difference between a proof coin, a mint-state coin, and a circulated 1.1. Particularly touching account came from a retired schoolteacher who had been collecting coins since the 1970s but had lost interest as life grew busy. Upon hearing the news of the 1998 penny's value, she revisited her collection, meticulously checking each Lincoln cent for possible varieties. She didn't find a multi-million-dollar treasure, but she did uncover a 1909 VDB Lincoln cent in exceptional condition, worth several $1,000s, which rekindled her love for the hobby. For her, the discovery wasn't just about money, it was about rediscovering a passion and a sense of wonder she thought she'd lost. The copycat effect quickly followed in global coin markets. Collectors in Canada, the UK, Australia, and across Europe began asking, if a 1998 US penny could reach $330 million, what about rare modern coins in their own countries? Dealers saw surges in demand for high-grade, low-population coins from the last few decades, issues once dismissed as too common to bother with. Auction houses began highlighting modern miracle coins in their catalogs, emphasizing their rarity and top condition and the potential for dramatic market appreciation. This effect wasn't purely speculative, it also drove a shift in preservation habits. People began treating even ordinary modern coins with greater care, storing them in protective holders, avoiding unnecessary handling, and learning the basics of coin conservation. The penny had planted a seed in the collective mindset: any coin, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, could one day prove extraordinary if kept in pristine condition. In the United States, the 1998 penny also deepened public awareness of coin varieties and mint errors. Terms like wide AM and close AM entered mainstream discussion, something unheard of outside of numismatics circles before. Video tutorials, blog posts, and social media groups devoted to identifying varieties exploded in popularity. Some YouTubers built entire channels around the premise of searching for the next big find, often referencing the legendary 1998 penny as proof that it could happen. Financial advisors, while cautious not to fuel unrealistic expectations, acknowledged that numismatics could be a viable diversification strategy when approached with knowledge and patience. They used the penny sale to illustrate the principles of rarity, demand, and market timing. Even though they reminded clients that lightning rarely strikes twice, the idea of holding a tangible asset with potential historical and monetary value appealed to many in a world increasingly dominated by intangible investments. Looking ahead, the legend of the 1998 penny shows no signs of fading. In fact, as decades pass, its significance is likely to grow. Just as we now look back on certain 19th century coins with reverence, future generations may view the 1998 penny as the crown jewel of late 20th century numismatics. The sheer improbability of its perfection, combined with its cultural impact, could make it an enduring icon well into the 22nd century. Collectors speculate on whether it will ever return to the auction block. If it does, there's a real chance it could surpass its current record. Inflation, market expansion, and the increasing wealth of global collectors could push the price into territory we can barely imagine today. Some suggest that in 50 years, the coin could break the billion-dollar mark, a symbolic milestone that would cement its place not just in numismatic history, but in the broader history of collectibles. But beyond the numbers, the 1998 penny represents something more profound: the idea that greatness can hide in plain sight. It reminds us that extraordinary stories are often born from ordinary beginnings. A coin worth 1 cent by face value became a treasure worth hundreds of millions because of how it was made, how it was preserved, and how it was discovered. And in that transformation, it carries a universal message: never overlook the small things, for they may one day prove to be the most valuable. As the story of the 1998 1-cent coin draws to a close, we are left with more than just the tale of a rare piece of copper-plated zinc. We are left with a cultural phenomenon, an economic lesson, a spark of inspiration, and a reminder of the hidden magic that sometimes rests quietly in our everyday lives. This coin, minted in a year that most people barely recall as significant in numismatic terms, transformed into a symbol of possibility, perseverance, and passion from the moment it was struck at the U.S. Mint in 1998. Its journey was already extraordinary, even though no one could have predicted it. The flawless planchet, the perfectly calibrated dies, the ideal striking pressure all aligned to create a piece that defied the odds. It survived decades without a single nick or scratch, avoiding the wear of circulation and the environmental damage that plagues most coins of its type. By sheer chance, it became a physical embodiment of perfection in a sea of billions. When it finally emerged into public view, it did more than shatter a world record with its $330 million sale. It shattered assumptions. It redefined what modern coinage could mean to collectors and investors. It reminded the numismatic community that the next treasure might be hiding in the change jar on the kitchen counter, the forgotten roll in the back of a drawer, or the sealed mint set gathering dust in a closet. The coin's market value was a headline, but its true worth lies in its influence. It sparked debates about rarity versus condition, rekindled dormant collecting passions, and invited an entirely new generation into the hobby. It demonstrated that collecting is not just about financial gain, it's about the hunt, the history, the stories, and the personal connections forged through shared discovery. Economists will point to this coin as a textbook example of how perception, scarcity, and narrative can amplify value far beyond intrinsic worth. Cultural historians will note how it shifted attitudes toward modern collectibles. And everyday people will remember it as proof that something small and overlooked can carry within it the potential to change lives. Its legacy will live on in countless ways, through the collectors who now treat their coins with more care, the students who learn about it in economic and historical studies, and the museums that display its image as an icon of numismatic history. Whether it ever returns to auction or remains locked away in a private collection, its story will continue to inspire. And so, the 1998 1-cent coin stands as a reminder that the next great discovery might already be in your hands. It teaches us that history doesn't always come with grand fanfare. It can come quietly, stamped into the smallest of objects, waiting for the right moment to reveal its true value. Some will look at it and see just a penny. Others will see a miracle of minting. But those who truly understand will see something far more precious, a testament to the idea that in the vast ocean of ordinary, there can be a single, perfect drop, unique, unforgettable, and capable of changing everything. And perhaps that is why the legend of the 1998 penny will endure long after the dollar amounts have been surpassed, because it's not just the most valuable modern coin ever sold, it's the coin that reminded the world to look closer, to dream bigger, and to never underestimate the extraordinary potential of the seemingly ordinary.